A terrifying horror movie that will scare you to death. It's back again. This is the 2014 release, Annabelle. Just One Doll has scared countless viewers into psychological trauma. The film is based on true events. Caution advised for the faint-hearted. The story begins. John and Mia are preparing a new room for their soon-to-be-born child. They collected a large number of dolls. Among them is a legendary collectible doll. Do you know how long I searched for it? I know. Although this doll is ugly and creepy, it is extremely difficult to collect. Therefore, Mia specifically placed it in the most prominent spot in the room. However, she did not know that this doll would bring the couple an unprecedented disaster. That very night, a murder suddenly occurred at the neighbor's house. John, being a doctor, immediately went to the crime scene to check the situation. Mia hurriedly picked up the phone to call the police, but she didn't notice at all. A shadow flashed past the nursery. After she hung up the phone, that mysterious woman had already appeared in front of her holding a doll. I like your dolls. Mia was so frightened that she kept backing away. Unexpectedly, she was taken hostage by a man covered in blood. He stabbed her hard in the abdomen. Mia fell to the ground and couldn't get up. John sensed something was wrong and rushed home in time. He fought with the assailant. Fortunately, the police arrived in time. They shot the man dead on the spot. But strangely, that mysterious woman actually committed suicide while holding the doll. Moreover, no one noticed that a drop of the woman's blood fell on the doll's head. It was quickly absorbed by the doll along the corner of its eye. According to the police investigation, the murderer of the neighbor's family turned out to be their adopted daughter Annabelle and her boyfriend. It turns out they had long joined an evil organization. Killing family members was one of their ways to show loyalty. Since this incident occurred, strange things have been happening in Mia's home. First, after her husband left for work, the chair under the doll started to rock by itself. It even made creaking sounds. But when Mia heard the noise and came to the door, the rocking chair stopped instantly. Because of the peculiar-looking doll, it always reminded Mia of what happened that night. Therefore, she decided to throw the doll away. John not only agreed unconditionally, but also personally threw the doll into the trash can outside. Obviously, they did not know that it's easy to invite a spirit, but hard to send it away. The day after they threw away the doll, the gas stove in the kitchen suddenly turned on by itself. Unsurprisingly, it caused a fire. When Mia sensed that something was wrong, the fire had grown too large to be extinguished. Mia was so frightened that she kept backing away. In a moment of distraction, she tripped over the corner of the table. She had no choice but to crawl outside with all her strength. Unexpectedly, the next second, a mysterious force grabbed Mia's ankle, as if it wanted to drag her into the flames. Just when Mia was still in shock, the neighbors arrived in time to rescue her. But Mia ultimately gave birth prematurely. In her view, this house was definitely cursed. She suggested to her husband that they must move immediately. John readily agreed once again. Soon, the couple moved to a new home. And while Mia was sorting and packing clothes, she unexpectedly took the doll out of the cardboard box. John was very surprised when he saw it. He was very sure that he had personally thrown the doll away. Although Mia also found it strange. She thought it was just because they were too rushed during the move. This led to taking the wrong doll. Considering it was a gift from her husband, Mia decided to keep it at home. But when only Mia and her daughter were left at home, Annabelle's ghost actually appeared again. And it even came to the side of the baby. The little girl immediately cried out in fear. This woke Mia, who was sleeping nearby. Such an exciting plot. I must share this with my girlfriend. Are you still watching movies alone? Why not try exploring? Go online and accurately locate single beauties in the same city. The information is rich and three-dimensional. If you like it, swipe right to chat. If you feel a spark, remember to go on Tan to find cute girls. Mia thought her daughter wanted to get some fresh air, so she took her outside to relax. But when they returned, they found several sheets of drawing paper scattered in the stairwell. The content of the drawings was actually what Mia had seen with her own eyes, her daughter and the baby stroller being smashed to pieces by a green truck. This made Mia feel uneasy. Seeing this, John decided to come home early tomorrow night to have dinner with her. But just as Mia was happily preparing dinner and playing records while waiting for her husband to come home, John suddenly had to go on a business trip. Frustrated, Mia had no choice but to turn off the record player. Then she went to the kitchen to clean up the dishes. Unexpectedly, at that moment, the record player inexplicably turned on again. After Mia turned off the music again, keenly sensed, it seemed that someone was hiding behind the curtain. She had just reached out her hand to lift the curtain. Unexpectedly, a cold wind swept in. Before she could even stand up, a little girl in white suddenly flashed past her. Mia hurriedly chased after her upon seeing this. But in the end, she found nothing. Just when she thought it was her imagination, the little girl suddenly appeared in the living room again. The next second, she lunged at her. Mia was cornered by the suddenly appearing Annabelle, but in the blink of an eye, she disappeared again. Faced with such strange occurrences, Mia could only wait for her husband to return to discuss a plan. The next night, due to a heavy rainstorm, Mia had to go to the basement to organize some items. At that moment, a baby stroller suddenly appeared. Seeing this, she cautiously walked over to take a look. She found only a blood-stained piece of clothing in the stroller. Just as she picked up the clothing, a pitch-black hand that definitely did not belong to a human suddenly grabbed her wrist. Frightened, Mia rushed into the elevator. It was then that she realized the spot that had just been grabbed had actually left an imprint of a mysterious pattern. And then strange things began to happen. The elevator, which usually never had any issues, was now inexplicably stuck on this floor. No signs of upward movement for a long time. Mia had no choice but to muster her courage and leave the elevator. But just as she had run several floors in one breath, and was about to rush home, she suddenly felt someone was following her from behind. Mia hurriedly stopped and turned around to take a look. In the darkness, there was indeed a figure standing behind her. As thunder suddenly rumbled in the sky, Mia finally saw the figure clearly. It turned out to be a monster with 2 horns on its head. Frightened, she immediately rushed into the room to hide. Only then did she manage to get through the night peacefully. However, by the next morning, Mia was surprised to discover that the mark on her arm had actually disappeared. She speculated that the recent events must be related to Annabelle, so she contacted the police, hoping to get some information about Annabelle. But when Mia saw Annabelle's childhood photo, she immediately recognized that she was the little girl who appeared in her home a few days ago. According to the officer, the organization Annabelle joined calls itself the Apostles of the Underworld. They have always wanted to summon demons, but have never succeeded. Later, Mia found in the photos provided by the officer, the pattern that Annabelle drew before her death on the wall was actually identical to the mark that appeared on her arm. Mia speculated that she was definitely being haunted by Annabelle's ghost, but the officer across the way doesn't believe in ghosts at all, so she can only rely on herself to find a way to get rid of the ghost that haunts her. Mia then went to the bookstore to look for information. The owner, Evelyn, noticed that she was troubled, so she came over enthusiastically to ask, "I feel like our house is being haunted by a ghost." After learning about Mia's experience, Evelyn not only didn't find it unbelievable, but personally helped her choose relevant books. She even invited Mia to her home in the end, and told her, ghosts usually only linger in the same place, and the fact that Mia is still haunted after moving to a new home suggests that what she encountered might not be a ghost, but a demon instead. While the two were chatting, Mia inadvertently noticed an injury on Evelyn's wrist. This was clearly a scar from a wrist-cutting suicide. Evelyn told Mia she once chose to end her life because of her daughter's death. As a result, she miraculously survived, and every time Mia appears, it reminds her of her deceased daughter. This makes Evelyn always want to help her. After saying goodbye to Evelyn, Mia pushed the stroller back to the apartment building, but before she could push the door open, she saw through the glass. Annabelle was staring at her while holding a doll. Mia was instantly startled. She didn't even notice that the stroller was rolling back onto the road. It was struck and shattered by a green truck on the spot, and this scene was exactly the same as the content of those paintings. The only difference was that Mia, for safety reasons, had always held her daughter in her arms, but to keep the child away from danger, she must quickly find a way to deal with the demon. While researching, Mia finally understood. The patterns Annabelle drew on the wall were actually a spell to summon demons. The reason she first killed her adoptive parents, and then committed suicide while holding the doll, was to use the blood of her loved ones for a sacrifice. Then, she used the doll as a medium to summon the demon. Just as Mia figured this out, she heard strange noises coming from the nursery. When she walked in, the door suddenly slammed shut. It locked her inside. Terrified, Mia immediately dropped to the floor. Through the crack in the door, she saw the books on the shelf were flying down towards her. Just as Mia let out a scream from fear, the doll suddenly fell in front of her. However, its appearance did not frighten Mia at all. Instead, it sparked immense courage. She picked up a chair and forcefully smashed the door lock. Then she immediately rushed into the living room and picked up her daughter. But at that moment, the doll that was just at the door had now instantaneously moved to the window. Then it not only stood up, but even slowly floated into the air. In her terror, Mia unexpectedly saw that horned demon again. She couldn't help but scream in shock. Meanwhile, John, who was on a business trip, finally returned. Hearing his wife scream, he immediately rushed into the house. But as soon as he stepped inside, everything in the room had already returned to normal. Yet John steadfastly chose to believe his wife. So that night, they invited a priest to their home for help. After seeing the doll's horrifying face, the priest deduced that it has become a medium for the demon to come to Earth. Although the priest does not understand exorcism, he has heard that there is a couple, the Warrens, who have done extensive research on this. Therefore, he decided to take the doll back to the church first, to weaken the demon's power, then contact the Warrens to come for the exorcism. But the priest never expected that when he brought the doll to the church entrance, Annabelle's spirit suddenly stood behind him. The priest hurriedly opened the church doors upon seeing this. Unexpectedly, the next second, he was knocked away by tremendous force, and that doll was also taken away by Annabelle. When the priest woke up in the hospital, he quickly reminded John beside him that although the demon cannot forcibly take someone else's soul, but it will threaten the child's life, threatening Mia to give up her soul. Upon learning of this situation, John immediately called to inform his wife to leave quickly, but under the influence of the demon, Mia could only hear a buzzing sound. After she hung up the phone, a heavy knocking suddenly came from outside the door. Mia opened the door to find that the person knocking was actually a priest. "May God have mercy on you." The demon, disguised as the priest, let out a roar, forcibly locked Mia inside the room. Evelyn, who was visiting, saw this situation, continuously encouraged Mia, "Never give in to the demon. They must leave here immediately." And the demon, in order to keep Mia, suddenly appeared and forcefully threw Evelyn out of the house, then quickly locked the door, then abducted Mia's daughter. Let Mia hear her daughter's cries, but she couldn't find the child's whereabouts for a long time. Just when Mia was anxious and desperate, she saw the doll. It had surprisingly returned home once again. What do you want from me? What do you want? At that moment, a colored pencil rolled out of the nursery into the hallway. Mia immediately walked into the room after hearing the sound. She saw 4 words written on the ceiling. Her soul. At this moment, the doll moved again. It lay directly in Mia's daughter's crib. This made Mia extremely angry. She grabbed the doll and started to beat it violently. Then she threw it heavily on the ground. But just then, a cry from her daughter came from inside. It turned out that what Mia had just thrown was not the doll at all, but her own daughter. Mia collapsed directly after learning the truth. She immediately rushed over. She picked up her daughter's body and cried sorrowfully. Little did she know, the next second, mocking laughter echoed in her ears again. Mia opened her eyes to see that her daughter in her arms had turned into a doll again. Mia was almost going crazy. Please, where is she? There must be another way. Just as Mia finished speaking, she saw 4 words written on the window. Your soul. In order to protect her daughter, Mia decided to sacrifice herself. Just as she was holding the doll and preparing to jump, John finally rushed back home. He and Evelyn stopped Mia from jumping, as the 3 realized that if they didn't offer a soul, the demon would never let the child go. As a lonely person, Evelyn took advantage of Mia and her husband's unawareness. She picked up the doll and stood by the window. She hoped her sacrifice could bring happiness to a family. Then she decisively jumped down. After Evelyn's death, Mia's daughter indeed appeared unharmed in the crib. But strangely, that eerie doll disappeared once again. 6 months later, an elderly woman came to a store to buy a gift for her daughter. She immediately set her eyes on the uniquely shaped doll on the shelf, which was the missing haunted doll, Annabelle. It seems it has found its next target. Well, that's it for today's story. Subscribe to the channel to continue watching. See you next time.